Hey everybody, it's Adam from Tested, and of course you know that Star Wars The Force Awakens Episode 7 has just come out. But what you might not know is that they brought in the original creature master of the first 3 Star Wars films, Phil Tippett, to replicate the Dejaric Holochess sequence for the new Star Wars film. I am in Phil's studio right now. They are just about to start animating this sequence. It's so cool, and we're going to talk to him about it. So Phil, it's 38 years later, and the Holochess, the Dejaric Holochess is set up in front of you. Can you talk about the process by which they brought you back into Star Wars to do this?
Well, we got a call from Kathy Kennedy saying that they wanted to restore the original chess set from Star Wars, and the problem was that the characters that we had made, close to 40 years ago, were in a horrible state of disintegration. We had given the original characters to George on a little plaque, and he had it in his office for the whole time, but they were made out of a rubber that disintegrates over time. It turns into like graham crackers. What we did was went to the archive and used photogrammetry to reconstruct the characters, got them into the computer, and did like an archaeological reconstruction of what the characters looked like in the computer, and spit those out, and those got 3D printed, and then molds were made.
And these aren't made of the same materials. These are not made of foam latex anymore.
That is correct. Yeah, they're all made out of a silicone that holds up a great deal
so they're
better.
soft?
Yeah, they're very squishy.
Cool.
And they'll last
And they won't rot.
thousands of years.
Okay, what was the process by which you built and animated these figures for the original Star Wars?
George saw this particular character that I'd made when I was in my early 20s, the stop motion character. And that gave him the idea. He was initially going to do the chess set with people in masks, but Michael Crichton had just come out with Westworld and did some holograms with people. So he wanted to do something different and said, what if we did it with stop motion? So John Berg and I were hired, and we turned around all these other characters in a matter of a couple of weeks, and in fact, they were having a wrap party at ILM at the time. It was everything was pushed right to the very end.
And what were they made out of, the original 8 figure?
This character over here was a foam latex creature that was cast from a mold, and the rest were just fabricated using Sculpey, different materials, urethane foam covered with latex. They were put together really quickly in a matter of a couple of weeks. But the reconstruction process
Took a lot longer?
took a lot longer.
When you originally animated, did you get a script from George about what to do, or did you get to freeform it?
We set them up, and George went, this one could go here, and this one could go here, and this one does this, and this guy does that. And was like, okay.
Okay, so Chuck, Gibby, you guys had the job to animate this for the new movie. Can you describe a little bit about the process, how you guys actually shoot them moving?
Oh, yeah.
One frame at a time.
One frame
yeah.
at a time.
It'll take forever. Yeah, Gibby was on these 2 guys,
All right.
and I did all the rest of them.
Now, when you're doing that, you have charts of every little piece of them that can move, right? Their eyes, their hands, their legs.
Not really. We sort of work out a dance between us, because we danced on James and the Giant Peach
Right.
a long time ago.
Which is similar
Same
armature
thing.
and character.
Each person was on each side of the peach.
Okay.
So I was just sort of following along.
So every second this is on screen, you guys have made 24 individual movements for every single character.
Right.
For 1 second of film.
For 1
Yeah,
second of film. Okay, talk to me about these guys.
Well, these are called surface gauges.
That's a machinist tool,
It's a
right?
machinist tool. This technology was incorporated by Willis O'Brien, I think as early as 1925 for The Lost World, and definitely used in King Kong in 1933. And there are frames in King Kong and Mighty Joe Young where you can see these things popping in and out.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, they didn't bother to just cut back or anything. They just kept going. No one will ever see that. But they're used to locate a point in space when you're animating.
So once you've shot a frame, you come in with this to register where a piece of the character is.
Exactly. And then you know by just positioning it incrementally where you are in space, and it's not much. And then once you've made your move, you pull it out, take a frame, and then you put it back in and adjust the character again.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk, and JJ has been a great advocate of bringing back some of the old school techniques from Star Wars. And Phil, you've gone all the way from original latex animated armatured figures to the most modern CG. Having seen this whole arc of technology, how does it feel to go back to the old school way of doing it?
Well, luckily I didn't have to do it. So, these guys, are a couple of the best stop motion animators in the world. So it was great to be able to have the opportunity to hand it over.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about how you guys keep global track of all this stuff as it goes?
I just take one character at a time. In my head, I figure out what these guys are doing, and pretty much all of these guys are just watching.
Every animator has their own particular way of doing things. Yeah. We're all totally different from each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So some people use charts very specifically and are very...
Well, I think Gibby used a dummy sheet to lay out some of the very basic key poses that you wanted to go for. So you have a map.
And this is like by frame 40, I want to be here. By frame 70, I want to be here.
Yeah, it's the only thing that keeps me organized. I have to work out everything on paper first. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and I act it out, and I time it with a stopwatch to make sure that I'm counting down the sheet at the appropriate speed so that I hit my marks. But that trick, and when I actually come to the table after every frame, it looks kind of silly, but I always try to come at the table the same way. So after I take a frame, I actually position my body to then approach the table.
So you're using the same muscles.
So it's all muscle memory stuff. When I get to the puppet, I'm kind of already situated to know where my hands are, and then I use my hands to just hold it for a minute, and then I start to make the move because I use my fingers in space to kind of look in case I go and I go too far. It's like I somehow can remember how to get myself back without having to go back to the frame grabber and check it.
Now, the frame grabber, which is the ability to look at the last frame and the current frame, isn't something you had back then.
No. You had a 35 millimeter camera, and you didn't know what you shot until you saw dailies the next day. We call dailies the Mylanta moment, because you never knew what you were going to get. But once you get past the initial, once you know what you're doing, what the intention of the scene is, and you've rehearsed it yourself and used a stopwatch or made like whatever notes you need, once you dive into it, it's pretty much an improvisation, and you allow yourself to at least have an intention and a starting point, but then anything can happen. You can start getting into it and go, oh wow, what if it... And it's like being an actor and being able to be free with having a more spontaneous idea rather than being locked to.
And also the puppet will tell you where to go sometimes too, because
it will move in specific ways.
It's like this one's a ball and socket, and if you lock it up and you can't move it anymore, you got to come up with a different direction.
I see.
And so that throws everything off a little bit, and so that's why I always say it's a dance, because you're always playing off of each other.
It's fascinating to think of improvisation on such a long time
Yeah, it's
scale.
very slow.
Yeah.
Very slow.
So can you talk a little bit about the lighting of this?
Well, it was engineered with Chris Morley, and we got Dennis Murin to come in as a day player to come back and help reconstruct what he did way back in the day.
That's
so
cool.
He jumped at the chance.
That's
Actually,
nice.
What we're talking about is Hunk from 30 years ago has moved a little bit further than where he was. He was on the ground, but now he's as squished as you can possibly get him, and he's just got his hand on the club, and he raises up as the green is moving in to get him, and he goes whoop and aims, and then there's a cut, and then for the second shot it's just the El Kabong.
Yeah, and we left Mr. Big doing his...
So the scenario that you guys set up, it has a lineage to the original Holochess from Star Wars, does it?
Mm-hmm. Certainly, yeah. In the original one that we did, this character comes jumping in and hops in, and then this character reaches forward and picks him up and throws him down.
Right.
So we elected to pick up where we left off and have this guy on the ground and this guy coming back to do another attack. And we just swapped out the who wins this time.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, this was the winner 40 years ago. This guy is the winner today.
Yeah, so I guess that's the game plan. And we'll spend a little time just kind of thinking about how each of these come back to life. 'Cause I-
Or, you know, we could give them something to do. Like, what if they, what they're doing is they're turning and looking at these guys.
It might be a place to start from, at least mentally, if for 30 years they've slowly kind of just settled. So when the button comes back on, they're just like, and then they kind of,
Okay.
sure. And they can check the guys out.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
I just feel like it's a little something that, it's not a big action, but it'll give them a little place to start from and go towards. And as they come on, there could have been an intention that was left from the old movie that wasn't explicit, where dummy looks at dummy. I'm just saying, it's great to get all these ideas, but then you just kind of throw them away.
Fine.
You know, you're building a history that you let go.
Do whatever you want.
You have to let go of it when you start. But at least if you have a history, you can start from someplace instead of just the universe at large.
Well, guys, Phil, thank you so much for taking me on a little
pleasure.
tour down memory lane and also the new Star Wars film. Thanks, guys.